Live for 10 at 10 today. We tried to do the show earlier, but that's the beauty of going live and technology, folks. So, really wanted to take that opportunity to have a conversation with Marty Smith, Kennedy Wilson, and formerly of Alhouse Deaton about his journey from entrepreneurship to intrapreneurship. Sir, welcome again.
Thank you. Thank you.
we're,
Good
we're
to be
at
back.
least we're at least on live, Marty. We're
That's right.
So I guess this time around, good afternoon. Thanks for coming back on the show today.
No, happy.
Um, I guess I want to just jump right into it. It's 30 minute show. Folks are probably sitting at their desk having lunch right now. Did you always want to be an entrepreneur? Is being a business owner something you always thought about?
Yeah, I was thinking about your question when you asked, and I always have been somewhat of a business owner. I think I mentioned earlier. I had my first job was a paper route that I took on. That was third grade. I had my bicycle, my little side straps, and
Third
you know, it
grade.
was third grade. Yeah, it was a different era back then. We
Mhm.
we could ride our bikes around at that age. But and then in high school, had a we created a painting company in high school and college. I went to school at high school and college in the same area, and so it was sort of an ongoing pursuit through college. And it was a kind of a loose company, but we called it Big Time Paint Company.
It's such a great name. I could tell
Yeah,
that marketing wise.
I was already on it. I was already on it. And I spent about half of my real estate career doing brokerage, which in effect is an entrepreneurial type of position. While you're usually part of another organization, part of a large organization, your client base is really who you work with, and they're independent contractors and individual business. So yeah, I mean, I think I've always had that independence and wanting to be running my own company since I started working. I think
Well, with all the things that you probably had your eyes on, even back then, from third grade all the way through, um, why real estate? Why was that something that you thought you had an affinity for?
it's an interesting question, and I stumbled into it. Really, it was I when I got out of college, I actually went to work for a big company. My first professional career, and there was a part of it that I wasn't comfortable with, although I enjoyed the job. But a friend, fellow classmate, was starting a little real estate company, or was part of the starting of a real estate company, and asked me if I wanted to join them. And I loved the idea of getting out of the bigger corporate organization and getting involved with a small startup company, and that was a commercial real estate company. And so that's what got me into it, and then I just developed the brokerage part of my career from that point.
Well, I guess with all the things that I mean has happened with real estate has been on a Bronco ride for what since the savings and loan crisis in the 80s.
Oh, good
all the
recall. Yeah,
all the way through. It's like, we're just going to teach you guys some things. We're going to keep going. So there's been a lot of ups and downs. How do you deal with those ups and downs, the failures and the setbacks?
that's a great question. I've had enough practice that I've gotten better at it. I will say, and because their first downturn in my career was the savings and loan. That was a long time ago, and we've had a series of in this area, it's mostly a financial issue than it is really supply and demand. Although there was oversupply in several cases. And what I've learned from experience is just um, that the market rights itself. It's an issue of trying to find when you're in these troughs, trying to prepare yourself for when the market returns. And whether it was the financial crisis or the .com, I guess was one that was we had in the early O's.
Yeah.
It's you, and I love the term that they have these days. It's called like green shoots, and you try to find those that are starting to pop up in different parts of the market and different segments of the market, and always know, and it has been my experience in this area for having gone through 3 or 4 of these, that the market always comes back stronger. There's in an era and an area and an era, I guess, of so much innovation just continuing to happen. The market comes back, and so it's more about now preparing for that comeback rather than trying to dwell on the downturn, because downturns happen consistently. And so
Let me ask you a question. With that said, do you think that the great times weaken us, as business owners? Because basically you could cover your eyes, reach out and grab a fish, right? Right. I mean, it's like, so it doesn't really prepare you for that strength of this downturn market. Um,
yeah, I would say that anytime times are really good, there is a natural a tendency, a human tendency, I think, to not have to feel like you need to scrap and work as hard as when things are really tough. Um, the key is to be able to make yourself better in those times where things seem easy. I mean, you compare it to how things were, or you compare yourself to other people, and it's a false equivalency. What you really want to compare yourself to is who you were yesterday, and how much better are you today than yesterday? And it's just a little bit, just a little tiny bit. But if you can maintain the discipline of trying to improve, there's always something to learn, always something to improve on. And if you can maintain that discipline, then I think you are less likely to really use the term get soft and take your foot off the pedal. It's not just about having, the abundance of the money or something. It's about getting better.
Well, how do you prepare yourself during these times? Because, I heard you saying basically you're keeping your learning going. I'm assuming networking, many things. What are you doing exactly during these high times to keep yourself at that level?
It's actually it's a new challenge in this of the last few, I call it 10 years, because the information that you can draw on to look to see where the market is going is so vast that it's the hardest part is for me anyway, is to try to weed out the information that may seem helpful but really isn't, focus on the truly nuggets of information that are going to be to start to develop a trend. There was 20 years ago, you didn't have the resources that you have now to see what's going on in a market, and sort of there's a lot more transparency with where
Mm, mm.
everything from the market to properties to tenants, all of those things that are happening, that it's being able to try to not get saturated with all of the information, but really try to weed out what it is that's really going to be important to the trends that you see happening, that are going to give you the expertise to really help people as we get out of this downturn.
Do you think that the experience that you went through is something that's applicable to businesses in all other categories? And if so, what advice would you give them with the rise that you've taken, the learning that you've had?
I think that the cycles, to the first point, the cycles are true in every business. That's, you can see it in the tenants that we work with, and the just people vendors, everything. As far as what people would, advice I would give to people when I was a partner with Alhouse Deaton, we did, we're doing multi-services, and And I would say that through it all, invest in your people.
Um,
Keep your team energized. Keep your team together. Keep it working together. It is so true that companies are who their people are. I mean, the company are the people in the business. And when you have good, conscientious, motivated people, you want to be able to motivate them and give them, um, uh, I guess I would say, transparency into what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish, and get buy-in. Excuse me. That above anything else I learned through that whole experience was that the people make it work. And that's where you want to invest in. And spend. And when I say invest, I don't mean just hire. I'm talking about train, inspire, motivate, get the buy-in. I guess is what I would call it.
the when you say, of course, during that entrepreneurial period, motivating your people, making sure that you're investing and being transparent. Does that translate when you're an intrapreneur, when you're responsible now for a book of business and a department? Are you making the same transition, or does it vary somehow?
For me personally, it doesn't change anything. It's a question of trying to do what's best for the team, and whatever team that is. Um, I was in charge of a little company in the Bay Area, and now I'm in charge of a region in the Bay Area, and our goals are the same as they were with Alhouse, Deaton, as they are with Kennedy Wilson, which is to provide great service, all those things you want to do to be a true professional, and then to grow. So to be able to guide a team and is really it's the same. I guess I would is the short answer. It's really has been the same for me.
I'd like to get your advice about, because of course, earlier you mentioned, of course, I know All House Deaton was a partnership. Any advice about partnerships? Because partnerships are like a second marriage if you're already married, right? It's like another marriage. Is there any advice there around partnerships, or is it just one of those evolving things? It's like, I don't know, you just do it, you know?
Well, I have the experience of one, so I can only I haven't done it a lot, and I was
Two,
um,
two.
um,
Don't listen,
I
Kristen.
do what?
I said, don't listen, Kristen. You didn't mean it.
Professional partnership.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. I was really fortunate to have such a good business partner as with Jeff Deaton. He was just is and still a very good friend, and was a friend long before we went into business together. And maybe that was that would maybe be the advice I would give is I don't uh, you never know how a partnership is going to go, but I would say the better you know the person, the more history you have with someone, I think the better chance you have of getting through rough times, because ideally you've already maybe seen them go through a few, or you've gone through a few, and you have that experience. But I would know know the people well. Here I go back to the people, right?
Yeah.
But that's who you're with every day, and that would be what I would say is know the people well.
Yeah. There's a section in the Think and Grow Rich. I don't know if you've read the book, where they speak about the fact that your success is determined by your choice of a partner. And I guess I would say that that would be business or personal as
Right.
well. And yeah,
Yeah.
how important is it, Marty, to build a community, branching from that work, because we're talking about relationships? How important is it to build a community? Because I have to say, when I started as a business owner when I was 17, I first got to America, it was like roll that boulder up the hill by yourself, self-made person. And then I started networking. I'm like, it's a lie. No one's self-made. Right?
Yeah.
But how has it been for you, business or professionally? I'm sorry, or personally?
Yeah. Um, the the thing about a community is that for me is that it builds a purpose or an engagement beyond the daily work. I'm a member of some associations that are advocates for different organizations, and to be able to engage in a campaign or engage in something that may be related but not exactly, you develop a more rounded view of where you fit in to a community and is important to the community. And I would say that engaging in those kinds of activities and branching out to people that go beyond your daily routine, just number one, it grounds you, and number two, it makes you a more well-rounded person.
Yeah, yeah,
And if you get some benefit from that directly from a business perspective, so the better. But that's really not the reason to do it.
yeah. I have to say, one of the things I love as well that was great for me was just being around everyone in their own area of mastery. And it really up levels you, doesn't it? Because of course you know what you know, that's your area. But to be around the attorneys and the commercial real estate, the real estate folks, the CPA, the financial guys, up levels you in a way that you do, I actually didn't even count on that section. It's like, whoa, there's a whole nother opportunity here from just being around each other, you know?
Yes.
If you
Yeah.
could, I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I just want to point out that what I've discovered is that how good people can be, and how
Yeah.
important being good and being professional, just caring. So many accountant attorneys they have these sort of dry titles, but they're actually people are very interested in doing the right thing by you
Yeah. I
and
have to
doing
say,
the
don't you find that entrepreneurs are the most, the best givers? I mean, we get such a bad reputation, you take from society, and there are some of those folks too. Yes.
yeah, but that's rare.
But most people are such givers, because I have
Yeah,
to say, I was 17 when I started my first thing. And the folks who came to get me out of no, like they saw something in you, and I like, come on, kid, come hang out with us. They didn't have to do that. I didn't even look anything like them, but they didn't care. They were like, no, no, we see beyond that, and
right.
I love that about entrepreneurs. They see the fighter spirit. They're like, okay, we know that spirit. Come over here.
Well, do a shout out to you, and don't embarrass you, but yeah, and you're an example of that, Paula. Because when you were doing our PR work at when we were at Alhouse Deaton, I think I did a promo, but I just said that I think it's important for Paula as it is for me to have our company successful, and that was really, and I still feel like that, and I think that's what makes entrepreneurs special. They are, in my experience, is almost always there trying to do best by the people around them.
Well, something, if because we actually perfectly got on that road together. If you could meet your younger self, I don't know which age you choose, but if you could meet your younger self, what advice would you give to your younger self? Like right now, I'm gonna hand you a time machine, so here you go. What would you
Oh,
say to your younger self?
well, I made so many mistakes. We could go on all afternoon. So
That's another show.
yeah, that's a whole category. Compared to who I was decades ago, I'll just leave it at that. We'll see how many. Um, it took me longer to what I would find the level of engagement that I do now than back then. That I was a little bit, in some cases, I would call it timid, but I was maybe afraid to make a mistake,
Yeah.
something like that. And I would tell anyone who is getting started in business, just don't be scared of making a mistake. Just make sure you learn from it.
Yeah.
And because everybody does it. Everybody makes mistakes. Not everybody learns from them, but everybody makes them. And I think that if you're going to engage in something that is new, it's inevitable. So just take that experience and learn from it. Make yourself better.
Yeah, take ownership of it too. It's like know your part. It's like, okay, I screwed up on this part, but it's totally fixable. I can learn, I can grow, I can move to the next level. I heard someone say once that the universe just keeps sending you that same mistake until you learn from it. It's like, oh, they didn't learn. Send it to them. Round two. Let's do it
Yeah,
again until they
yeah.
figure it out.
That's the caveat. Don't be afraid to make a mistake, but definitely remember to learn from it. That's the key.
As far as business owners, whether they're startup or they're in the middle of running their business, they're having challenges. They're overcome by the newness of what we're going through because we've none of us have really experienced the up and down at this level. I felt like everything else was standard. Contraction, expansion. Then this contraction expansion period is in a whole different zone for those business owners who are a little worried. What advice would you give them based on your experience? What would be the first things that you say, I'd like you to do this now or consider this?
Yeah.
I threw that one at you from left field.
I would say, I would go. The first thing that I would tell, including myself, is that things are never as bad as they seem, and they're never really as good as they seem, and they're temporary.
Yeah.
There are very few things that are able to abide by the law of permanence. It's everything changes, and I think that I would start with that. It's not as bad as it seems
Yeah.
right now emotionally, and then I would go back to finding those elevator, the green shoots, and look. Don't keep.
They're hunting you down, sir.
And not really. Sorry about that. But it's avoid looking at what has been going on, other than a practical way of avoiding it, but not dwelling, I guess is what I mean by that.
Yeah.
And stay present and stay in what's going to be, what will be the next move up. That's,
Yeah. And I'm going to add to that, get out of the box. It's so easy to hermit during this period, right? Get out of the box, go be around like-minded people, because when you're doing that, it's just a great reminder that no, you're going in the right direction. There are other people on the road with you, and they've made mistakes too,
Yeah,
All right,
that's right.
my favorite question to you is, leaders are readers. What does that mean for you specifically?
Uh, I think leaders certainly have to have a direction where you're taking whatever it is whatever it is you're leading. You want to be going into a direction, and in order to be not only accurate, maybe, but up to date, you always have to be aware of what's going on around you. Reading, for whether it's working with people, whether it's what's happening in your market, what's happening with your industry. Information is a required ingredient of leadership.
Yeah.
You have to know what is to say is know what's going on. It's way more. It's more than that. You have to be able to. You want to be able to interpret what's going on, and the only way you're going to do that is to find multiple data points and try to connect the dots in a way that works for you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
It's a
absolutely.
great saying, by the way. I like that.
I don't know,
Leaders.
leaders are
Leaders are.
readers. What was the last book that you read, by the way?
I'm sorry.
What was the last thing that you read that you may want to share?
I read an article today on the San Francisco getting their housing right, just hoping they're going to get their housing right, which was encouraging. I think that's what they're having the state review of whether we're getting that right. But I would love to see that they've been focusing on it, and I'm glad to see it, and I hope that continues. It was kind of an uplifting. At least it was uplifting to me. I don't know if the article was written sort of like suspenseful. Maybe it's going to happen. We'll find out tomorrow. But I think it was. I liked it.
Yeah, yeah. I love that, So, well, something we could keep chatting forever. I know whenever I see you, it's always afterwards, Marty, you want to go get a beer? Get a beer, right? So thank you
Huh.
so much because it's been wonderful seeing yourself and Jeff. Oh, and actually, Marty just got booted off the show. And well, something we were wrapping up the show anyway, so I'm going to say um, thank you guys for reaching out. Thank you guys for continuing to support us. My continued mission statement, as always, is to introduce you to great business owners who can share their expertise and their experiences to help you move forward both personally and professionally. We air every Thursday at 10 a.m. And of course, today, because of technical difficulties, we start at 1:30. We still wanted to get this information in. And we do this live. And of course, because of that live structure, Marty got kicked out. Who knows? I think his Zoom meeting probably started. Um, he actually had a phrase that he was going to close with today, and it's something that he says is very meaningful to him. So I'll share that for you. And I think you heard him say it earlier. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. Making a mistake is okay. And of course, I added to that, take responsibility and ownership when you make a mistake. Be open, learn from it, move forward. And you're human. You may have to learn the same mistake over and over again. That's part of the beauty of what we call life. Enjoy your entrepreneurial journey. Thank you guys for watching the show, sharing, staying connected. You guys always continue to amaze me. You guys are doing some beautiful things out there. Anyway, take care. Have an amazing rest of the afternoon. Bye, everyone.